I want to bring in Congressman Khanna of California, member of the House Select Committee on China, and Congressman Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin, who chairs that committee. Thank you both for joining us right now. I will go to Congressman Khanna first. You saw what President Biden is now talking about when it comes to AI. Do you think it's realistic that the U.S. government is going to actually be able to understand what's even under the hood of some of these programs?
Yes, it is. I mean, first, the export controls, export restrictions on these chips are really important. We should not be letting advanced logic chips, NVIDIA chips into China, and they need the advanced chips to do AI. The second thing is the United States has a huge advantage when it comes to AI. You know, China tells the AI models, don't talk about the Tiananmen Square massacre. You're not going to get AI to work effectively when the CCP is regulating the inputs and selectively using that. The final point is, look, we need more technologists in Washington to be able to understand the safety mechanisms. But my view is we have a lead over China.
Congressman Gallagher, are you satisfied that we have the right protections in place to prevent some of these chips from going elsewhere? Do you believe that actually secretly some of these companies are actually knowingly providing these chips to places like China?
I think these companies face a bit of a dilemma. They want support and subsidies from the federal government, but at the same time, they have business in China, particularly on low-end chips that they don't want to jeopardize. And I think that's a reasonable area where we on the Select Committee on China and other committees can ask some hard questions. I agree with a lot of what Rose said about the importance of export controls. We need to get those right. We need to bring along as many of our allies as possible. Above all, when we look at this space, we need to understand that a world in which the Chinese Communist Party dominates critical technologies, particularly artificial intelligence, is a very dark and dystopian world, and it's one that we don't want to live in. And so while I agree we have a lead in this space, it's very narrow, and it's something we need to actually increase. We don't have the luxury of pausing or stopping. So getting that balance right, that balance of guardrails so this technology isn't used for dystopian purposes, while at the same time doubling and tripling down on innovation, that's the challenge. That's why I look forward to digging into this executive order, and that's why I feel fortunate to be able to work with my colleague, Khanna, who's very thoughtful on these issues.
Congressman Gallagher, you've talked for a long time, I think both of you have talked for a long time about protecting Taiwan from China. That has now been sort of looped into a larger conversation about Israel and now and Ukraine, all three of them together. Do you think that they should all be put into the same bucket?
Well, the bucket they are all in, or the thing that they have in common, is that we need to make a generational investment in our own munitions industrial base. All of the long-range precision fires that are critical not only for the Indo-Pacific, critical to preventing a war with China over Taiwan, but also have applications in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe. In terms of the legislative strategy going forward, what makes the most sense to me is to take aid for Israel, put that on the floor next week, potentially package it with a more robust aid package for Taiwan, because if you look at the supplemental request from President Biden, the Taiwan portion, the Indo-Pacific portion, was woefully insufficient. It was about $2 billion, all things considered. The actual number is probably closer to $10 billion. And then launch a parallel track linking aid to Ukraine for some common sense compromise on the border. That, to me, is something that I think could actually pass over the next 2 months. But the reality is our munitions industrial base is broken, it's brittle, it's ossified. We need to fix that.
Hey, well, Congressman Khanna, and then Mike, you can, Congressman Gallagher, you can weigh in on this. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, first governor in 4 years, to head over there. Boy, those guys looked, they looked like they really liked each other. I don't know what exactly they were talking about, but, I mean, we know about China and the relationship that she has with Putin. Were there political overtones to why Gavin Newsom was over there glad-handing with President Xi, Ro? And then I'll ask Mike Gallagher. Does that look good to anyone, Ro?
Well, Joe, I have no problem with him going there. I would have taken a different tone. Let me just say first that the most substantive bipartisan work that's taking place anywhere in the Congress is on the China Select Committee, and that has a lot to do with Mike Gallagher's leadership. But here was my challenge. I mean, go meet with Xi Jinping, but the first three things should be what's happening with the Uyghurs and the human rights crisis. What is happening with our trade deficit? Why do you have a trade deficit, not just with the United States, a trade surplus, but with India, Japan, South Korea? That's got to stop. We want our jobs back. What are you doing in terms of ratcheting up the tension on Taiwan? And let's be very clear, you're not going to have any support, and you're going to have huge deterrence and opposition if you make any move on Taiwan. Those needed to be the conversations.
Yeah, Congressman Gallagher, there was none of that. I mean, did you have a, what is your side saying about that photo op?
Well, at the risk of making this a bipartisan love fest, I agree with everything Ro just said. I do think
he's reasonable.
Yeah, exactly.
This is cable, Gallagher. Come on.
Yeah,
tell Ro. Ro's supposed to take the other side.
That's right.
That's
exactly
right.
Like I'm not trying to meddle in California politics either, but there's this view that we can compartmentalize our relationship with China so we can have tough export controls and then seek a cooperative relationship on climate change. The Chinese Communist Party tends to reject that. And more to the point, in our efforts to sit down at the table, we tend to delay necessary defensive action. So obviously, I think Governor Newsom wants to be president of the United States.
Right.
This is part of that
if he
effort.
opens that floodgate, if he opens that, Ro, where a challenge to Biden, he's got to get in line, because you know what's first, Rojo. The Rojo
maybe
ticket.
Gallagher's got to be Secretary of State on Rojo, huh? Is that
the Rojo ticket.
Joe Ro?
No, it's Rojo. I don't want the top job. Too hard. I want to be the vice president, where I don't really do anything.
Joe Ro.
I want to be the VP. You're the top of the ticket. Thank you.
Congressman Khanna and Gallagher, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Coming up.